acted decisively, pulling on the vessel's heavy tiller while sailors scurried above in the rigging, tightening lines and adjusting the sails for the wind change on their new heading. La Capitana's bow slowly heaved to the right, each degree an effort with so much water in her bilges. The Bermuda soon matched La Capitana's new direction. Meanwhile, Bartolomeo raised his eyebrows and looked at Christopher. He did not have to speak. Christopher knew his question. Why south?
"I know Hispaniola is in sight, but with this headwind we'll never make it," Christopher explained. "If my reckoning is right, Jamescu is 100 miles to our south. I explored there on an earlier voyage. The wind on this heading is more favorable, and we stand a better chance of making landfall before we sink." "Let's hope your reckoning is right, Admiral," Bartolomeo said. "Everyone's life depends upon it."
"We'll make it," Christopher assured him. Christopher then barked out another order for every available sheet of sail to be hoisted to take advantage of the prevailing wind. As the two ships plowed their way south, he kept a close eye on the Bermuda, half expecting her to sink below the water at any time. As the hours passed, Christopher scanned the horizon for any sign of Jamescu, Jamaica. He had seen nothing of the island when darkness finally descended and enveloped the two ships. On other nights, the vessels would have lowered their sails and drifted together, not wanting to sail on and risk hitting a reef in the darkness. But things were too desperate now for such precautions, and Christopher ordered the ships ahead at full sail. He would take his chances. But an uneasy feeling crept over him as he stood alone on the poop deck of La Capitana. Would the Bermuda still be afloat in the morning? Or would she go to the bottom in the darkness, taking her crew with her? As the first long orange rays of sunshine streaked across the ocean's surface the following morning, Christopher's fears were allayed. The Bermuda was still afloat, barely. And as the sun rose higher and began to sparkle on the bright blue ocean, Bartolomeo rushed to Christopher's side to point out an even better sight ahead. Emerging over the horizon was the lush, jungle-clad coastline of Jamescu.
"Your reckoning was right, Admiral,"
Bartolomeo said, relief evident in his voice. Christopher smiled to himself. Whatever else he had been accused of in his life, being a poor navigator was not one of those things. As Jamescu rose larger before them, Christopher recognized the lay of the land and gave the order for La Capitana to steer several degrees to port. The Bermuda followed their new course. An hour later, the two ships sailed into a broad bay, Santa Gloria Bay, rimmed with a wide, glistening white sand beach. Once again, Christopher yelled out orders.
"Dead ahead at full speed. Beach her as high as you can."
It was an order he had never given before. After the two ships were run aground, the men climbed off and ran around on the sand. They laughed and hugged each other. It was a satisfying moment for Christopher. Two crews had depended on him, and he had brought them to safety. As he peered into the dense jungle beyond the beach, Christopher began to wonder what would happen to them next. It was true that they were now safe from sinking, but it was also true that they were marooned in an empty bay on an island an ocean away from home, and not one person in the outside world knew where they were. Instinctively, Christopher called the men together for a mass on the beach. Since his first memories as a small child, religious services had given him hope and inspiration, and he would need both if he was going to find a way to get himself and his men home again. Chapter 2. A Boy from Genoa. 12-year-old Christopher Columbus sat quietly in church. He listened intently as the priest completed the Latin Mass and began speaking in Christopher's